All right, welcome back. It is the Fantasy Endgame. For those who do not know, I'm Pierre and he's Chris. We're here to break down everything that happened and still yet to happen in Week 9. And we're going to talk for about an hour up until the Sunday night game kickoff about the biggest booms, busts, injuries, news, and everything that's going on. I think we have to start with Justin Fields. Don't you think that's probably a good place to start?
There's a lot of good places to start, but sure, we can start with Justin Fields. Sure.
So set a record. That's always good. Rushing yards.
What was his? It was like rushing yards in a game, right, for a quarterback.
Rushing yards in the game. Only Colin Kaepernick had more, and that was in a playoff game. So regular season record is his. That's something you kind of like to see from a quarterback. That's something that Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and Matt Stafford don't seem to be doing.
No, they don't give you that. They definitely do not. Although Aaron Rodgers had like 30-something rushing yards today. That might be a record for him. Be a record for him.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. Something positive out of Green Bay. That's another good place to start is Green Bay. Man, I mean, I've never been a Packers fan, but I guess I'm glad now I'm not one. This is definitely a tough year, especially coming after last year where they were the top seed and thought they were going to the Super Bowl. I mean, we can't even ask, is Aaron Rodgers done? Well, we know he's done. He's already said pretty much he's not coming back, and we know that he looks like he's done, but is he going to just like be done mid-season and be like, yeah, I had enough of this, I'm out?
I mean, probably not, because he'd probably be leaving a lot of money on the table. You might as well just go out there and throw 3 interceptions and collect, your millions. So, but he's definitely done. I mean, he's like, this is like when you're at your job or whatever, you put in your 2 weeks notice and your productivity goes like, woo, because like 2 weeks I'm out of here anyways. That's kind of like how I feel about Aaron Rodgers right now. He's like, 1 foot out the door, just get me out of here, and done.
Or like, as I know, when you're a teacher and in like the last 2 weeks before summer vacation and you're already packing up your room and you're ready to go. Yeah, something like that. Okay.
All right, this is the guy else? I thought we talked about first.
Who's that?
Mixon.
Oh yeah, Mixon. He was okay. He was all right.
He was all right. Yeah, it's funny because we've been saying for weeks, right? Like, Mixon's getting incredible usage. He should have way more touchdowns. He should have way more this, way more that. It's gonna happen. And I'm pretty sure. I think I said it was either on this show last week or the Tuesday night show. I said I could see this being the week where Mixon has. Because remember, Kamara just had a 3-touchdown game last week. He was due. And I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this was the week Mixon had a 3-touchdown game. Well, I was wrong because he had 5.
Yeah, you missed. You were off by a whole 2, so definitely. Yeah. Like, people are always, always panicked, as you know this, and the panic video is going to come out not too long from now. And people always freak out about this and that and the low numbers, but there is such a thing as positive regression. Like, we know sometimes things are too good to be true. Sometimes they should be better. Like, they're too bad to be true. And Mixon's performance so far with touchdown rate, at least, had been that way, but also with yardage. I mean, the Panthers, I mean, it's okay. Yeah, that's a team that, they're giving up on the season. They have nothing to play for, but they actually were fighting. I mean, they should have beaten the Falcons last week. They're playing decent with PJ Walker, and this week I think the Bengals just rolled them. I mean, I don't think it was the Panthers. Anything changed with them? Nothing changed with them. They didn't have all these injuries on defense. It all kind of came together. So, congratulations if you had Mixon. Let's also talk about the Raiders, because it looked like in the first half, if you had Devontae Adams, you had a win in the bag. He had like 120 some yards and 2 touchdowns and like 10 catches. And then he ended the game with the exact same stats. And the Raiders did the exact same thing they did in, I think it was week 2 or 3, week 2, I think, when they came out to this big lead and then did nothing in the second half. Like, to me, that talks about halftime adjustments and coaching. And that says to me that McDaniels just doesn't know how to do that.
No, I don't think. McDaniels will probably make it through the year because, like, what's the point of firing the guy mid-year? But I don't know if we see McDaniels back next year. I mean, the Raiders, geez, man, like, got to be one of the biggest disappointments, right? Like, it was funny, before the season, we were looking at the AFC West and we're thinking, all right, the Chargers, they got way better. The Raiders got way better. The Broncos got way better, right? And the Chiefs didn't really get that much better, right? Like the Chiefs didn't really get that much better. And then it's the Chiefs just dominating. The Raiders still terrible. The Chargers can't get out of their own way. The Broncos still terrible. It's like it didn't even matter with all these teams upgraded. They're just the same teams anyways.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams are underperforming. The thing is with like the Broncos, Hackett is a rookie coach, right? First young guy, first time coach. McDaniels does not have that excuse because he hasn't been a head coach. He's been a long time OC. Yeah, you don't get a free pass here. Rise above anything. What is up? Picked up Fields in 2 of my leagues. That is a smart move.
Yeah, so did Joe here. So did Joe.
What is up? Yeah, Joe. And look, here's the thing. And looking back, my waiver wire pickup from last week, I did mention Mooney and I mentioned Herbert. I thought that there would be more of a ground game for Chicago. Did not anticipate Justin Fields throwing for 3 touchdowns. We both had Fields as a good streamer, right? Like a strong pickup and a replacement. I'm just going to go ahead and say, I didn't think he'd be the number 1 quarterback. Didn't see that coming.
No one. Even somebody who's going to type in this chat and say, I knew Fields would do this, didn't know Fields would do this, right? Like, yes, a lot of people thought Fields was a good option this week at QB, but no one, like, this is just one of those games, right? Like, career game. But the good thing for Fields is he's kind of, like, ever since they started, 15 carries for Fields today, and they're not like, the pocket breaking down, let me take off. They're designing a lot of runs for Fields, and they started designing runs for him, I think, like 3 weeks ago. And ever since then, this offense and Justin Fields has gotten better. So, look, credit to the coaching staff. Kind of like Nick Sirianni last year. You know, the worry was like, oh, is he going to force Jalen Hurts to be a pocket passer? And he didn't. And credit to the coaching staff. They forced Fields to be a pocket passer for most of the year, and they finally said, screw it. Let's just let him run, and it's working. So, you got to be feeling good about Fields the rest of the season for sure.
Yeah, definitely have to be feeling good about Fields, just as you have to not be feeling good about the Packers. Here's a question. Is A.J. Dillon a must pick up? Because Aaron Jones, obviously, we don't know exactly because it's very early and we don't get full injury updates yet. But walking boot, not a good sign. Didn't return, not a good sign. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say he's a must pick up because look, did he do anything in the second half against Detroit?
Well, no, but somehow the Packers were like down 2 scores and had to throw the ball a bunch, but I get it. The offense is bad. But my thing is, like, who else are you gonna pick up? Like, you're telling me that there's somebody on your waiver wire who has more value than the starting running back for the Packers? And this isn't going to be a great waiver wire week again, right? We didn't have like I don't know. I'm sure you do our waiver wire video, but like I can't think. There's nobody jumping out to me like, oh, this is a must add. Like, yeah, Justin Fields, but that's only for teams who need a quarterback, right? Like if you have Josh Allen, if you have an elite quarterback, you're not picking up Justin Fields. Like I don't see how A.J. Dillon isn't a must pick up because who else are you picking up?
I mean, a starting running back, and we say this a lot, like he's a starting running back for an NFL team. He's got value. I mean, there's some running backs that by default, really, and especially there's bye weeks still happening, injuries. So I can't say a must add. Like you can't be excited about him, but yeah, I will probably mention him on the waiver wire video. I mean, especially if Jones is out for a while, it is an ankle injury, not a knee, and a lot of guys wear walking boots and then they come back and play the next week. So again, I won't go too far with it. Nick is gonna, I guess, take a victory lap here. Got Mixon on the bench. I mean, look, Chris, we weren't all crazy excited. Like we knew Mixon was bound. We didn't know for sure it was gonna be this week. No. We thought it might be, but we have Mixon as you have to start him if you have him, right? We still have him.
He's a guy like when this is, I think, trying to see how it works because a lot of people just look at like points and like stats and think, oh, this player's doing poorly or this player's doing well, right? When really, like, Mixon was one of those guys. In fact, it's funny because Mixon coming into this game, there's a stat for expected touchdowns, and it looks at things like where you get the ball, how many defenders in the box, and it looks at how many touchdowns you should, like an average player would have based on all that usage. And Mixon was 5 touchdowns below where he was expected. Well, now I'm guessing he's back. He might still be a little bit, but the thing is, when a guy's getting usage like that, you have to ignore the points. You have to look past the points and say it's going to start happening, because that kind of if we just scored players on usage, Joe Mixon right now would be so far ahead of everybody. That's like everybody, but he has been underperforming. So no, I didn't. Look, I tongue-in-cheek said this could be the week he gets 3 touchdowns. I didn't, you never know, of course. But my question is, if you have Mixon on the bench, who are your running backs? That's my question. Like,
right.
That's my question. Like, man, you must have some great running backs. You got Mixon on the bench.
Well, I'm hoping you didn't roll out like Deontay Foreman instead of him or something like that, because, so it it depends, but still, Mixon's a guy you just can't bench, and this is why.
Yeah.
Ralphie dropped a super chat. Don't see a question or a comment with it. We'll see if we can find it, but I do also see one from Melvin McCall. All right, so here we go. And by the way, this is one of the reasons we started doing this. We love the instant reaction and all that, but we're still here to help. If you have a start-sit question for tonight's game or tomorrow on the Monday night, let's get to those. We'll do waivers on Tuesday night. It's a little early for that. Okay, do you risk it on Tony tonight or Prochet on Monday?
Like, no way. Prochet, like, when's the last? Has Prochet caught a pass? Like, when's the last? Is Prochet even playing? I don't even know.
I mean, look, we had some questions about Duvernay this week. We had a lot of people talking about Isaiah Likely at tight end. I think this is the first time we've heard mention of James Prochet, and I get, like he might get some targets, but I would just go with Tony. And that it's very rare that I'll say that about Kadarius Toney, but it's got to be Tony.
I will say, and I didn't know this, so credit to Melvin McCall for the question, because I didn't know this. He had 3 catches for 24 yards last week. But at the same time, it's like, here's the thing. Let's say he gets 3. Let's say, so he got you 5 fantasy points in PPR last week. Let's say he gets you 5 and Tony gets you 0. Like, is that really, like, are you losing by 2 right now? Or are you losing by 1? Or is it better if Tony gets you potentially 15 or 20 because he, like, takes a swing pass and breaks it to the house or something like that, which Prochet will never do, right? Prochet will never do that. So, yeah, if you only need like a couple points and then you win your matchup, maybe go Prochet, but you gotta go Tony here and risk it for the upside.
Yeah, it would have to be a case where you just don't need a 0. Okay, fine, go Prochet. But other than that, no, because again, we always talk about upside.
Yes.
Prochet ain't got it. He doesn't.
No.
All right, and then Sabesan with a chat. Here's the comment. Head to head, up by 3. Okay, well, there's a similar situation. Opponent has Kamara. I have Justin Tucker in the Ravens defense.
Yeah, probably got to be a little nervous there. I mean, you never know. Tucker can have one of those crazy like 15, especially tonight or tomorrow night, when they might not be able to score touchdowns, right? Because like Lamar might be able to get them just close enough, but not that final stretch, because they don't really have any playmakers tomorrow, right? They're missing a bunch of playmakers. So, I mean, maybe, but I mean, probably got to be a little worried that Kamara is going to beat you.
I'd be worried, especially this version of the Ravens defense. Not too great. I don't know that I count on them shutting down Kamara. You never know, though. You never know. I mean, it should be close at the very least. They'll give you that. It should be close. But I wouldn't necessarily put my money on your team. Okay, what about Jeff Barr?
He's also asking, are we worried about Raheem Mostert?
Oh, yes. Yeah. You have to be, because Jeff Wilson got just as many carries, and that's a problem. So it looks like we're back to the 50-50 split we thought we would have with Edmonds, and they basically said, like, yeah, we don't like Edmonds anymore, which makes sense because he's been terrible. It looks like just a timeshare.
For now, it wouldn't even surprise me, because we already kind of thought, like, there's a chance Jeff Wilson might eventually become the guy here. And now it's the first game with Jeff Wilson, and it was 50-50, but Wilson caught more passes. So it's like, man, I could definitely see, like, like Wilson taking over pretty soon. So yeah, definitely worried about Mostert. Definitely worried about Mostert.
Should be. Don't drop him. Somebody asked earlier in the Discord, do I drop him? I mean, don't just drop him just to drop him. I mean, he still has value, just not as much value. All right, and then Jeff Barr. All right. So,
all right, well,
Kyler Murray. I mean, he wasn't. Well, he was Kyler Murray, wasn't he?
Yeah, he got what 19 or something. I mean, apologies for that you lost, but I mean, I would go back in time and tell you to start Murray again. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
But he still appreciates. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping if it wasn't just that, there's obviously more than one player on the team. So look, I'm kicking myself too because I did mention 2 Bears last week on the waiver wire, and I was going to put Justin Fields in there. I was like, I'm feeling it. This is a good week, but I was like, let me wait one more week and see it to be sure. I don't want to go out and say, hey, you start him this week for sure, But there's obviously not that many quarterbacks who are with that upside that he has.
True.
I thought they would really try to establish the ground game more in this matchup, and they were like, just let Justin Fields let him run wild, and that's what happened. Okay.
Well, I think we have to get to the point where it's like, we think about the Lions, we think about, I don't know, the Texans when it comes to running backs. Like, not trying to pile on the Dolphins because I know you're a Dolphins fan, but I'm sure you agree. We have to start looking at the Dolphins as a matchup. Like, get players against the Dolphins. Just get them in your lineup because
I agree.
Bradley Chubb did not make one difference. I mean, look, Bradley Chubb's a great player, and I'm sure he'll help the defense, but 30 whatever points from the Bears, like it just get players against the Dolphins, right? Just put players in against the Dolphins. If you have a tie break and one's playing the Dolphins, that's the tiebreaker, no doubt.
It makes, as a Dolphin fan, it makes you nervous every week because we're barely beating teams like the Lions and the Bears. But I love it for fantasy because Tua keeps piling up points and Cheetah keeps piling up points. I love it. So I'll take that. They at least they're still winning, right? They are still winning. This is a pretty obvious one.
Yes, definitely.
Look, Stafford was droppable a long time ago for just empty space.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather have Jimmy G than Stafford.
Sadly,
he's I don't know what I can't say, like, the offensive line, right? They lost Whitworth and they lost all these. It can't just be that. Like, if you're a great quarterback, you can't blame the offensive line for making that many poor decisions, for just not scoring. There was no comeback this week. It was another letdown. It's not just that. I mean, I don't want to say like, oh, well, he got his ring and he's not, he's good now. But he does not look as motivated. It's just different.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's see what else.
Oh, we're still looking for Ralphie, right? Oh, I found Ralphie right here. Actually, here he is. So he's down 7. He's got Olave, and his opponent has Butker. I think he could win.
Should win. He should win.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, it's close. Like, because Butker can get like 8-ish, right, and that makes it 15. Which Olave can definitely go over 15. So yeah, I think, like, I would, if I had to bet, if somebody said bet, I would bet on your side. But I think I'd probably be sweating.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a gimme for sure. I'm counting on a big week from Olave, but also Kansas City, I don't think should be forcing too many field goals this week. Tennessee defense is not superior. Look, here's a good question. One of the guys that just has not lived up to the early season hype is Amon-Ra. He's still the sun god. He always will be. But what do you do with him? Because, again, kind of a dud this week. And no Hawkinson. Packers kept giving the ball back to them. They had plenty of chances. What do you do here?
You just got to keep him. I mean, I guess if you can sell high. But, like, he's in the panic video tonight, of course, as is Swift. And I talk about it in there. I'm like, look, this is one of the reasons why I wasn't super high on Amon-Ra this year, because his quarterback is Jared Goff. It is Jared Goff. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I'm sure he'll still have some big games before the end of the season. And when he does, everybody's going to say, ha, 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 Amon-Ra St. Brown, ha, 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 put him in the must start, ha, ha, ha. You know what I mean? Because that's what people do. But like, since week 2, he hasn't even scored 14 fantasy points. So, I mean, like in a game, I say in the panic video, he's a wide receiver 2 with upside. You put him in, you take whatever you get. Some weeks he'll score a touchdown or 2 and you'll feel great, and other weeks he won't, and you'll be like, okay, that wasn't so great.
There's still upside there. I mean, yeah. I think it's clear he's not going to be doing what he did at the end of last year. That streak at the beginning of the year, I don't know. This Lions offense obviously not putting up as many points, but I think he's still solid. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'd just get rid of him for the sake of getting rid of him. So, all right, not my favorite here, Jimbo Fisher, even though not with Florida State anymore. And look, I'll just take this time to mention that even though they got completely humiliated by Florida State, this is how you know I'm a true fan. I still have my Hurricanes hat on here. Okay, because that's where I'm from. All right. But anyways, Jimbo wants to know, would you trade JT or Swift for Amari Cooper?
I mean, I would 100% trade JT for Cooper.
He's saying his only good receivers are CD and maybe Pittman. Look, Pittman is a good receiver. He's just in a terrible situation. So I think you have to do this.
Gosh.
You have to.
I think so. I think so. I mean, on the plus side for Swift today, dude had 5 touches for 50 yards, but he only had 5 touches. It's like is he so injured that he's out there like ripping off huge runs every time he catches it or touches it, but he's too injured to get the ball? I don't know. Like, yeah, I think you have to. I think you have to. I prefer JT because I do think, look, the Colts are in obvious tank mode. Don't talk to me about the Steelers. Don't talk to me about the Packers. Don't talk to me about any bad offense. The Colts, no doubt the worst offense in the NFL. Not even close. Sam Ehlinger has 1 completion in the first half. One complete. They're not trying to win. They are trying to tank. 100%. They're not even like trying to pretend like they're trying to win. They're tanking. So I can see JT getting shut down. Swift at least will continue to play, assuming he doesn't get re-injured. So if you can do JT, that'd be my preference, but I would do either.
Yeah, at this point, it's just you just abandon ship on Taylor because, again, it's not – you can say, well, he's been bad. It's not like he has done anything, noticeably worse or like he's lost a step or anything. It is just the team itself, the offensive line, which is why Matt Ryan hasn't lost anything on his arm. He's not the reason they were losing. The offensive line has been terrible. Coaching is not working out. It's everything. So anyways, bottom line is it's a tank job. They're not saying it, but it's pretty obvious now. Look, if they weren't tanking, why would they throw Ehlinger in there all of a sudden? And not just because they're, throwing Matt Ryan under the bus. Don't they have Nick Foles? Didn't they sign Nick Foles to be their backup?
Yeah.
So if they want to win, why wouldn't they put the guy who has a Super Bowl ring?
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious it's a tank job.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of disappointing former champions, what's going on with Tyler Higbee? Looked like he might be a set and forget tight end, and now he's kind of a guy you can't trust.
No, I can't trust him anymore. Cannot trust him anymore. Like, if there's any decent tight end still on your waiver wire, like maybe Njoku was dropped. Like if Njoku is on your waiver wire, I know you can't drop Tyler Higbee because you probably played him. But if you have somebody on your bench you're planning to drop this week, just drop him right now and go pick up Njoku, assuming your league most leagues allow you to drop players on your bench who you didn't play. But yeah, like if there's any good tight end on your waiver wire, drop Higbee and pick them up.
Yeah. And a couple of people have this question. Lack has this question. Didn't even get a catch today. I mean, it's not just today. This has become a pattern. It's multiple weeks in a row. Higbee was kind of the safety blanket if Kupp wasn't open, and now it's just not involved at all. So this offense has been terrible. Just terrible. So Greg Dulcich, a guy coming off the bye week. might be out there in a lot of leagues. I mentioned Njoku on the early waiver wire last week because he was on a bye. So, of course, nobody was picking him up for this week. So, definitely got to pick up. It's not guaranteed he'll be back in week 10, but still, just hold him.
Hold him and just ride with another tight end until he gets back. Yeah.
Drake London, same situation.
I think in shallower leagues, yes. I mean, he got a little more involved today. Unfortunately, he had the ball ripped right out of his hands. That was kind of funny, actually. Like, you don't see that very often. Just ripped it, like, give me that ball. But yeah, like, unless you're in a really deep league, I think you can drop Drake London. Yes.
Yeah, London is droppable. And again, not anything about him personally. It's just not getting fed enough targets. So you definitely don't have to drop him. This is similar to the other question we had. Drop Mostert for Dylan.
I mean, I'm just saying, if it was me, I'm doing it because, Mostert is probably going to become at best like a guy who's sharing the work with Jeff Wilson. That you don't really like. That doesn't excite you. AJ Dillon when Aaron Jones is there doesn't excite you. But at least for however many games Aaron Jones misses, assuming he misses games, AJ Dillon will at least be a startable like RB2. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be like a top 10 running back because that's insane. But he'll at least be like a startable RB2. Like, look, people were starting Foreman this week, Deion Jackson, like. Those guys did nothing, right? Did nothing. Like, at least AJ Dillon will get the bulk of the work. So, yeah, I would do that.
I guess so. I mean, yeah, because Dillon, at least, assuming Aaron Jones might miss at least one game,
right?
I guess so. I'll tell you though, there's one league where I just made a trade. I won't get into the details, but basically my choice this week at RB2 was AJ Dillon or Michael Carter, and I went with AJ Dillon based on the matchup, and I regret that. We'll see what happens next week. I did think, by the way, oh well, it's Buffalo. Michael Carter's not going to do anything against Buffalo.
Yeah.
All right, this is a sad one. What about Gabe Davis?
No, this is okay. This is what you signed up for. When you drafted Gabe Davis, you said, I accept that there will be many ups and downs this season, but the ups will be great and the downs will be bad. And that's just who he is. It's who he was always going to be. Like, so you can't drop Gabe Davis. No way. He's because on any given week, he can go for like 25 or 30 points and win your matchup. So he's just one of these guys. He's one of these boom bust guys, but literally boom or bust. Like, he's not a boom bust guy like 10 points or 30 points. He's a boom bust guy like 5 points or 30 points or 6 points or 30 points. So, just who he is.
Yeah, I wouldn't drop him. I mean, the upside is still there. Look at on paper, this was a tough matchup, and obviously proved to be that because the Jets won. So Diggs is always going to get his. Gabe Davis was still the second most targeted player in Buffalo, for what that's worth. I know that doesn't help you in fantasy, but I wouldn't drop him. There will be some good games coming. He's just, putting him in the lineup when you know when it's going to come.
I'll say this because I'm looking right now. Next week, Minnesota, he could definitely go off against Minnesota. Cleveland could definitely go off against Cleveland, and then Detroit. He almost will certainly go off against Detroit. So I mean, at least hold him for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it's frustrating, but like you said, we should not have counted on him as an every week wide receiver 2 or anything like that.
No.
Rye Raps, what's up, Rye Raps? Up by 65.
Yeah. Okay. This is one. If somebody says, "Okay, you're gonna place a bet," I'm like calling all my friends. How much money do you have on you? Let's just pool together all the money we possibly have and all in. We are all in that Rye Raps is going to win. You're going to win. Come on. Mixon just had 5 touchdowns and he only got 53. I think you're good.
Yeah. Brady is droppable. Yes,
definitely.
Just like Stafford.
He's been droppable for a long time, but yes, definitely.
Here's an interesting one. Kareem Hunt or Jeff Wilson, rest of season.
I think you got to go Jeff Wilson right now because I I mean, it's definitely a better offense, but it's also a more fantasy-friendly offense. And look, again, this is Jeff Wilson's first game. He just got to the team like Tuesday night, and he already has more touches than Raheem Mostert. Like, yeah, you definitely have to prefer Jeff Wilson over Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense why they got Wilson to replace Edmonds, because Edmonds has been terrible. But and obviously the familiarity that I did not think Wilson would get that involved right away. And that's why I felt really good about Mostert this week. So you got to go with Wilson. I think you got to. Hunt kind of is just a handcuff now. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Goomba. Hawk with Kirk rest of the season better than Andrews. That's I don't know. And he's not asking, he's saying that's his hot take. You
I mean, it's definitely a hot take. But look, we've seen these guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, what happens 1 week or 2 weeks doesn't mean that's going to happen every week. You know what I mean? Like, people were talking about like, oh, Hopkins top 10 rest of the season, league winner, going to score 20 plus fantasy points every week, going to get a 50% target share every single week. Amon-Ra is going to score 30 every week. Like, just because one guy has a good game 1 week doesn't mean it's going to continue. I'm going to bet on the guy who's done it like week in and week out over the guy who did it once. Plus, teams like to show off there. Like, they get that shiny new toy, Mark Andrews or Tyler Hawkins, whatever his name is. We got to show him out. Like, hey, this is a good trade. See, this is a good trade.
You did have a nice week, 9 catches, 70 yards, obviously, but this feels a little bit like an overreaction to what just happened. I mean, look, if Mark Andrews' injury, that obviously not playing this week, if he winds up missing multiple weeks, well, yeah, you might be right, but I'm still gonna go with Andrews. But we'll see. Well, I think this is a receipt taking time, so Goomba will remember. Going with Hawk over Andrews the rest of the season. All right, mark that down.
At least he put the hot take thing in.
Chip Rockets, Cordero over Mostert going forward? It has to be.
I mean, has to be. Look, I told a lot of people to start Cordero this week. It was the Chargers. Tyler Algier had 13 fantasy points. Like, there's just some defenses, like the Texans, like the Chargers, that you just start running backs against. It doesn't even matter who. Like, as long as the running back is getting a decent amount of touches, you put him in your fantasy lineup. Mostert, I mean, I'm not like super high on Cordero Patterson because he scored 2 touchdowns against the Chargers. It's like he did it against the Chargers. But I'm so low on Mostert right now that I'm definitely higher on Mostert with Cordero than I am Mostert, if that makes sense. Like, this is more like I'm so low on Mostert that yes, definitely Cordero over Mostert going forward.
Well, I'm pretty high on Cordero because he's on a team that has a good offensive line and is committed to running the ball a lot.
That is true.
And that's why he's going to keep being effective. So I really like Cordero, and you'll find out I really, really like Cordero this coming week because it's almost as good of a matchup. But anyways, yeah, definitely Cordero over Mostert. Joe Castle is one of our patrons. Joe's jumping on just to say thanks. Won in both leagues. Nice. That's what we want to hear. That's exactly what we want.
Yep. Good job. Good job.
All right. Let's keep going now. We are looking, by the way, if we see any start-sit questions for tonight or tomorrow, because we're only on here until kickoff, basically right after kickoff of the Sunday night game. Feel free to take victory laps. We do that too. That's what it's all about. That's why we do it, right? That's why we play the game. Let's see.
Well, I do want to get to this one real quick. Because it's pressing. So should he drop Duvernay to pick up Pacheco before the game? I'm gonna assume you don't need Duvernay. Like, I'm gonna assume you're not gonna play Duvernay.
Well, that's the question. I mean, I read this like are you asking who you're gonna flex between those two?
Well,
I'm not sure why you make that move. Yeah, I'm going Duvernay either way because look, Pacheco, fine, he's touchdown dependent, right? You touchdown or bust, but also look, if you're thinking for this week, don't do it. The Titans, of nothing else, actually have one of the better run defenses in the league. So Pacheco is really just touchdown or bust. Duvernay, I mean, he can get you some yardage, he can get you those big plays. It's not guaranteed, but I definitely go Duvernay. All right, here's one that could take about an hour if we get into it. Who's we're thanking for next year's NFL draft?
Well, the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks. There's some good quarterbacks, right? Like C.J. Stroud. I can't think of his name for Bama. Bryce Young, just remembered. I know there's some other guys too. It's a good QB class for sure. And so if you're the Colts, look, you tried it with Phillip Rivers, it kind of worked. You tried it with Carson Wentz, it didn't work. You tried it with Matt Ryan. It's like, okay, this obviously is not going to work. And they just said, forget it. Let's just bench Matt Ryan. Don't forget, Sam Ehlinger isn't a 6th-round rookie. He was a 6th-round rookie last year that never even played, right? Like this isn't like this is like some hidden gem here. This is a guy like, no, they knew. They're like, we're gonna put Ehlinger in. We're gonna lose every game. Here's the sad thing to me though. Although Frank Reich should probably get fired, but the sad thing is like Irsay probably told him put Ehlinger in. Like, we'll just tank for this year and we'll rebuild for next year. And Frank Reich was like, okay, let's do it. And then what's going to happen is he's going to get fired at the end of the year. That's what's going to happen. So.
Basically, he's got to know. I mean, maybe if he complies and he does as told, then maybe he's like, that's the condition. I'll keep you in for one more year. I find that hard to believe, though. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, they're definitely a good quarterback class. There's probably at least 5 quarterbacks. Like this year, there was no quarterback that could step in year one and start. Like, and I mean, who should be starting? I know Kenny Pickett is starting, but there were no quarterbacks who should be starting this year as a rookie. And next year, there's going to be multiple ones. So, let's see here. That's pretty funny. Okay, let's see. Up by 90. Opponents' last players are Henry and Kelsey.
I like your chances. I mean, look, Derrick Henry just ran for 200-something yards with like almost 40 carries against the Texans and got what, like 30-something points, like 30 points? Like, so I don't really see a path for these guys getting 90. I think you're good.
I think 90 is pretty good.
Yeah, I think you're safe.
Did you mention Khalil Herbert as a panic player or no?
No, I did mention Montgomery, but not Khalil because I don't like to mention guys that I don't really feel like people are like. Is anybody relying on Khalil Herbert? Like, are people like, ooh, Khalil Herbert's going to help me win matchups and win weekend? Like he's a guy like I didn't mention Foreman. I didn't mention Deion Jackson because those are guys you're only plugging into your lineup because it's like there's 6 teams on bye. You have an injury. Like, you're not like – you shouldn't be panicking on – like, if you're counting on those guys to carry your team, you've got more to panic about than those guys, right? You're in trouble. You're in trouble. So I typically don't talk about guys that aren't like, you know, they're more like fringy, like, okay, yeah, you're desperate. You everybody's on bye. You got an injury. You're desperate. You throw them in there. Okay, he didn't get it done, but that's what happens when you throw those guys in. So, no, I'm not talking about Herbert.
No, I'm not worried about Herbert. But again, he's not a guy you should be counting on to start week in and week out. Like Gabe Davis was drafted high enough that, you know, that so many people were counting on to have the big season. Like nobody expected that from Khalil Herbert. All right. What do you think about this? Diego wants to know, should you trade CeeDee for Jamar Chase? Give me CeeDee. I'll just say give me CeeDee. I'm not going to take the guy who's already missing multiple weeks, and we don't know exactly because what they're saying is that this should be like a 4 to 6 week injury, but they're just hoping he comes back sooner. Like, I'm not taking that chance. Just give me the guy who's a stud.
Yeah, because it's CeeDee, I'd probably go CeeDee. The only thing giving me more like feeling better about Chase is that he got this injury in week 7, played week 7 and went, or he got this injury in week 6, played week 7, went off, had a huge game. So it's not like he got hurt in like at the end of week 7 and now he's dealing with it. He was injured in week 6 and he played an entire game and went off on it. So it sounds like it's the kind of thing that just needs rest. Like it's not like, you know. So I don't know. But yeah, because CeeDee is so good, I'd probably just take CeeDee and not risk it.
I would take CeeDee. That's me. John's asking 26-point lead. Got Drake, but he has Henry and Likely. I mean, if you're on a huge Derrick Henry week.
I mean, Derrick Henry can always have a huge week, but can you really feel like a huge Derrick Henry week when it's the Chiefs and they're probably going to be down like as bad as the Panthers were today? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know Mike Vrabel just wants to run the ball, and Mike Vrabel has like some kind of bet with his friends, like how many touches can Derrick Henry handle before he like is crippled? But at some point, you have to try to throw the ball. Like when you're getting blown out, you can't just keep handing it off to Derrick Henry over and over, right? Like, right? Am I crazy? Maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe you can, but I'm not feeling a big Derrick Henry week against the Chiefs just because game script should be so badly, especially now where it sounds like it's going to be Malik Willis. So yeah, the Chiefs can just basically put like 11 guys in the box and be like, good luck.
Well, do you remember last year the Titans upset the Chiefs? They beat them big, and not the same situation obviously with Malik Willis, but look, Henry had 86 yards, no touchdowns. Like, it was fine. I think he can do that, but it's going to be also like last week. He's going to just get fed the ball. He's going to get at least 25 carries, but there's no guarantee that he scores. Of course, there's no guarantee he rips off big runs. That's the one thing you talked about this, Chris, is that he's not doing this year. He's not getting those breakaway touchdowns, those long runs for touchdowns. He's dependent on the volume. He'll still get the volume. Like, that's not a question. This is not going to be his most efficient game because of the matchup. So, I mean, I'm not going to say it's in the bag or anything, but I think you can be less worried about Derrick Henry than usual. I think you definitely can pull it off because your lead is big enough.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, here's a very vague question. Thoughts on DeAndre Swift?
Yeah. I mean, I talk about it in the panic video. You can't be feeling good. Like, 5 touches. I mean, is he that injured? Like, is he really that? Because, again, he had 50 yards on. It wasn't like he had 5 touches and 4 yards, like looking like hobbling around out there. But he had 50 yards on 5 touches, and he almost had that. You know, this is another thing. Jared Goff is bad. Like, I don't know if you saw it, that little swing pass to him near the goal line. He should have scored, but Jared Goff threw it behind him. If Jared Goff puts it in front of him, he scores a touchdown there. But you still have to be worried because only 5 touches. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know if he's in Dan Campbell's doghouse. Is he really just this injured? I don't know. I don't know because it's not like he's ineffective when he gets the ball. He's great when he gets the ball. He just never gets the ball. So I don't know.
I think he's just a hold for now. Obviously not a sell high because there's no high. You know, people are worried. But yeah, I think just hold and hope for the best. I mean, he's still startable at least. All right, and then even though we discouraged spamming in the chat, I think this one is less egregious, and we are kind of caught up. So, all right, ASM, I'll answer your question. 67 points right now. Got Mahomes, Henry, Kelsey, Chiefs, and Butker. So basically, you have everybody who's playing tonight. Opponent has 127. Can those players get you 60?
Mahomes, Henry, Kelsey, Chiefs, and Butker. I think they could. I definitely think they could. I mean,
they definitely should.
Yeah, I think I definitely think you should be able to get 60 from them. Unless the Titans somehow pull off like a crazy upset, like this defense steps up somehow and holds Mahomes in check, and they are able to just run Henry and just run slow, methodical drives, take like 7-8 minutes off the clock. That's really their only chance. Because with Malik Willis, they can't throw the ball. They just can't. And you should, though, because it's hard to envision that because this Titans defense isn't very good. Like, I don't see how this Titans defense stops Mahomes.
Yeah, you definitely should with those guys. Yeah, definitely should. All right. Let's see how far we go. Is Fields top 5 rest of season?
I can't go that high, no, because you're talking about what? Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. Who am I forgetting?
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. Look, Joe Burrow today, Joe Mixon had 5 touchdowns. Joe Burrow didn't even play the fourth quarter. I think he only threw 25 passes, and he still had 20 fantasy points. And then you got to start talking about how do you feel about Fields versus Herbert when Herbert gets Mike Williams and them back? How do you feel about Fields versus I don't know, Kyler Murray? I think he's got to be in the top 10, but I don't know if I'm ready to put him top 5 just yet.
Yeah, it's so hard because you don't want to overreact and you don't want to say, oh, that's it. All of a sudden he's the top quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
But then you look at the stats in the past 3 weeks, he is the QB1, number 1. So, and none of those guys except for, okay, well, let me take that back. Maybe none of these guys, but he has as much, if not more, rushing upside than pretty much all those guys. I mean, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, that's what makes them super valuable. Well, look at Justin Fields, what he did today. You can't say that he can't do that because he just did that. He just did something that those guys have never done as far as rushing wise. The touchdowns is what you don't know if you can count on. That's the thing. But you also got to look at the fact that they just got Chase Claypool and he didn't play, but now all of a sudden maybe they're even better at receiver. So I'm not quite ready to put him at top 5, but I think he's close. If he does it one more time, which I think he will next week, and maybe we have to look at him that way. Okay, so Fields or Dak rest of the season? I'll go Fields.
I think you got to. I think he's right there in that tier of those guys. But that rushing upside is just too much to ignore.
All right. Michael wants us to stop telling him to start Michael Pittman. Did we tell everyone to start Michael Pittman this week?
I told a lot of people not to start Michael Pittman this week. Maybe we told you
permission. It's okay to bench him.
Yeah, maybe we told you based on your other if your other options were terrible options. But yeah, you can't start Michael Pittman anymore. No way. Maybe when they play super just really bad defenses, but that's really it.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions about Pittman this week, and a lot of times we said no, don't. Fergda, remember Fergda with us a lot. All right, what do you think, Mixon or Etienne rest of the season? Another guy who had a big game.
I think I got to give Etienne the slight edge now. He just looks so good, just so good, and I mean it's close. It's really close because this isn't over. The Mixon listen to us. We've been saying Mixon's a buy low for weeks. Keep starting Mixon. We've been saying this, so this is an overreaction to Mixon's game. But I think I just feel a little the Bengals can get away from Mixon at times, right? They can just go into this super pass heavy game script and they don't run the ball, and Joe Burrow just throws it 40 times. That's never going to happen with the Jaguars. You never have to worry about that with the Jaguars. Etienne will always be the focal point of this offense. So I'd probably give Etienne the slightest of edges. Very slight, though. Very slight.
It's tough. It's really close there. I'm going to give the slight edge to Mixon just because he's been more involved as a pass catcher, and I just think he's on a better offense, period. But, man, these are both guys that are now – I mean, of course, Mixon has been, but now Etienne is, no doubt top 10 running back and – must start rest of the season. I mean, unless things change. All right. Elijah says, RB right now are terrible. Who should I trade and who would be a good RB to target? You got these players, Connor, Pollard, Mostert, and Foreman. Yeah, you probably need to get something.
But you got good wide receivers. Look, I'd be trading Hopkins right now. Not that I'm low on Hopkins. I did just trade for him in our dynasty league where I'm trying to go for the win this year, which with Pierre. But my worries with Hopkins are, number one, today was one thing, the Seahawks have a good secondary and they have good corners. They've been pretty stingy to wide receivers. The Saints and the Vikings terrible against wide receivers. He got 2 extremely soft matchups to start the year for him. Now he played a real secondary today. Only 5 targets, Moore had 10, Ertz had 8. Like he wasn't even the number 2 target guy today. He was number 3 on the team, 5 targets. And look, I know people are going to comment in the chat and say I'm a hater or whatever, but if just watch him. Just watch him objectively. He looks slow off the line. He doesn't look like he can beat press coverage anymore. He's over 30. Like he's still a good receiver in the sense that he has great hands and he's super smart. He knows how to find soft spots in the zones. He knows how to like work the corners to get open, but he doesn't have that like elite ability to separate and beat guys off the line and beat press like that anymore. So the reason I say Hopkins also is because look, Hollywood will come back at some point. And when he does, that is going to hurt Hopkins' value. And right now, people view like Hopkins still had like 13 fantasy points today. So his value is still way, way, way high. I would put him in your lineup type of running back. Or maybe you might even be able to get more. I don't know. Maybe you can even get more.
Yeah, I agree. Hopkins still getting in the end zone, but this is probably where the sell high window is at its peak, I would say. So Godwin still has name recognition. You got good enough receivers packaged. Pretty much any of those running backs with one of those receivers, not Cooper or Kupp, of course. So actually, I'd probably hold Olave. So either Hopkins or Godwin and package with any of those running backs. If you can trade Mostert now, do it. You should be able to get somebody good back. Randy Cortez telling us that the game is about to kick off. If we have any last second start sit questions, we'll answer those. But if not, our time is going to be up. We will get you guys. Oh, no. Are you kidding? I can't take it. All right. And we are going to be back into some people asking trade questions, waiver wire questions. We're going to get to all of that on Tuesday night. Join us live. We're on for about 3 hours, answering as many questions as we can. So join us live there. Of course, you can join us in the Discord. Link is down below. And if you are a patron, we answer every single one of your questions in a private channel. And you have your own start show on Sunday mornings. So, hey, that's more than you got with the Giants.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question here. Like, really wants help. He's with us almost every week. Godwin for Amon-Ra. Who do you like?
I mean, I probably slightly prefer Amon-Ra. Like Godwin again. How many points did Godwin get today? Let me guess. 13. I don't even know, but I'm just gonna guess 13.
I mean, it's probably less today, but let me see. Let me make sure. It was 7 for 36. Only about 10 points.
Okay, so that's all Godwin is. He's just a 10 to 13 point high floor guy. Amon-Ra can get you that even on his bad days. He's got a higher ceiling. I would take Amon-Ra.
Yeah, I agree. Amon-Ra. All right. That's it. We're done for right now. We will see you guys on Tuesday night. And, of course, stick around right after you finish watching the Sunday night game. You'll check out that panic video. Chris is going to drop that. Waiver wires coming out tomorrow. And then all the start sit. Everything you need to know. Hopefully we keep those wins going. Good luck in game community.